Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We are here for the playoff semifinals stream for the. I don't even know what we call this thing. We were calling it like the NGG podcast or the podcast or the. I was calling it NGG PM as a throwback to the good old days with Code. But we are here for this. And we are joined as Kate is back this week. Code's with us again. And then we are joined by Morgan HL, who is the general manager of the Webster Tigers. Morgan, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great. Trying to figure out which receiver to start.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
It's
So
bleak out there.
there are only what, like two of us, or there are only two of us that are rooting for you to lose. No offense. So the other nine people can be completely unbiased here. What's your decision again? Between Proche or Porsche, or we don't know how to say the guy's last name, from the Ravens, and Shaheed from the Saints, right? That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think. I mean, Zacchaeus, if you think he's going to get a ton of targets this week, but I don't think he will. So
And,
maybe the third.
and from what I remember, Code Cade and I are very team Shaheed so far.
Yeah.
So if you guys feel differently, feel free to jump in. That's always the worst when you have like everything figured out except for that last spot, and no matter what, you know you're gonna pick wrong. Like that's the worst part about it. When was the last time you guys can say that you're 50-50 between somebody, and the guy you put in went off for 30? Like I probably can't say that for the last like 3 years. So we all know that struggle.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's going on, or I guess really what happened last week. And we're going to talk about it bracket by bracket here in a minute. So last week we look at what the games were. Webster Tigers and the implications, and the nail biter implications pick up the win there. We've got Justin's Deli and Lose Like Flynn also in the toilet bowl bracket. Lose Like Flynn wins handily by 17 over Justin's Deli by Jarek McKinnon doing things.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Actually,
League winner.
I only have him at 19.5 there. He ended up going for 30, so that's a mistake on my end. In the extra pick bracket, we've got Watson's 25th masseuse falling to Team Havoc by about 45 points. Cade staying undefeated since taking over the team. Make fullbacks great again against Dan Flash's 126 to 151. Joe Burrow doing a lot of work for the fullbacks yet again. And Diamond Dogs with Jalen Hurts pick up the win over Brownout by just a little less than 5 points. So Code stays alive in the bracket there. And so let's take a look. I probably should have had this a little bit better. I do have a scene for this. We're gonna do this terribly. I've been
Go for it.
do my first couple times doing this. We had it like all down and like
Perfect.
everything was pretty.
Perfect.
And then I've just been choking recently. So we're just gonna slide this to the top like we're doing the fucking cha-cha slide. And then we're gonna add in this. How this works. Yeah,
Ooh.
it worked. Okay, so this is a little small. So hopefully this looks a bit better on your guys' end than it does on our end. But we added some stuff in there. Oh boy, this is terrible. Sorry, Morgan. Your face is gonna go away because there's your
No.
face. So
That's right. Very good.
That's okay.
we still love you. So here's the playoff bracket, a bit more zoomed in. So we've got the grand prize bracket, what it's turned into. So Raggy against fullbacks, great again this week, as well as Diamond Dogs against Kongsu Pandas. Again, that's the grand prize bracket. In the fifth place game, we've got Brownout against Dan Flashes. Again, these two have to play each other this week. Whoever wins that takes fifth place, and fifth place takes the seventh pick. So I know it's weird because the numbers are different, but fifth place will get a better pick of the two teams. So if they both have their first round pick, which Dan doesn't, and I think Dan maybe has one pick this year, if any, but I know that K Migs and Brownout do. So if they win, they will get a higher pick. It's only by one, but still, that one spot in the rookie draft could be huge. In the extra pick bracket, it's a best of three, but Team Havoc picked up the first one there. If they win this week, they've got nothing to play for. It's a bye week. Play the rookies in week 17. But if Watson's manages to pull that one out, they will play one more to see who wins that extra pick, which is 1.13. And the toilet bowl, we've got Webster Tigers and Justin's Deli at 0-1. Lose Like Flynn, the implications both at 1-0. And again, whoever wins this bracket comes in first place in the bracket, gets 1.01 or 0.01. Whoever comes in second gets 2. Whoever comes in third gets 3. And whoever comes in fourth gets 4 and has to go watch that fucking movie. And what did we say? 500-word report on it. So I really thought it was going to be me this entire time, but we'll see how it goes.
Look, it still could very well be you.
Yeah,
You got cocky.
that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. That was a hell of a game the entire time. I thought I was going to lose to the Tigers. We were I don't know how much you monitored that game, Morgan, but you and I were going back and forth, and we were less than a point apart projected, and we've been like less than a point apart since the 4:00 games on Sunday. Like, it was insane. Did you think you had it in the bag, or did you think you have it lost before you did, or where was your head at throughout that matchup?
I thought Christian Watson would get a touchdown and negate that Baker Mayfield touchdown and
Yeah.
somehow give you the win there. But no, they don't like to call pass interference in the end zone on Jalen Ramsey. He just gets to trip and do whatever the hell he wants. So, you don't get a touchdown, you know?
Right.
Yeah. At the end of that game, he had an opportunity. He just didn't look for the ball.
I was gonna say that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
were you watch? I'm sure you were watching
his-
that game live, right? As a Packers fan too.
I was watching it live, and Rodgers decided to do a little jack-off motion on his forearm. I guess that means run a quick out, you know, whatever that is. But
Old man
Yeah.
Rodgers, man, he cannot be trusted.
How did you like? How many bad words came out of your mouth when Watson didn't turn for the ball there?
a few, not like
Not
a
terrible, but
ton.
yeah.
But I was like, damn it, I could have had it right there. Like,
Yeah.
if he just gets that touchdown, that's the win. But,
It was
you know,
definitely.
that's how it happens.
Yeah, that's fantasy football. It was definitely one of the scariest games I'd watch in a while. I just want to go on the record here, fully on the record. Everybody says I'm a Baker truther. I just want to put this out there. I tried to win the first 4 games of the season. I tried to, like, before I officially embraced a tank. I got Baker early on in the season. I needed him to score some points for me, and he drove down the field on the Carolina Panthers and scored a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey to allow me to beat Brown out and go to 1-3. And then I started tanking, and last night was the second time I've ever had to rely on Baker, and he did it for me. So I'm just saying, the times I've needed Baker, I'm 2-0.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm not a Baker truther. I'm just saying he hasn't screwed me yet. So we'll see. Moving on, though, let's talk about the bracket. So we have this. This is our spreadsheet with all your teams on it and all that good stuff. So in case you guys haven't seen it yet, there's a tab here at the bottom with the bracket. This is the bracket. This is the most accurate bracket. Please don't use Sleeper. The Sleeper's things are a little bit inconsistent. So if you haven't seen this yet, here it is. This is what our bracket looks like with our team colors, and it makes it pretty and all that good stuff. And there's check boxes, which is cool. When we look at this bracket, for the most part, this is kind of what we expected. I would argue, I think that we could definitely argue that the toilet bowl bracket, none of we had any idea what's going to happen. But I think for the main bracket, it looks about right, I think, for the most part. You could argue Diamond Dogs versus Brown. I could have or should have gone differently, but here we are. So we'll start with just kind of going game by game. We'll start at the bottom, touch on the toilet bowl quickly, and then move to the extra pick bracket pretty quickly thereafter. Let's start with, oh boy, my cheat sheet's on the same tab.
It's code.
Nobody saw that. Nobody saw that either as my cheat sheet. We've got the implications against Justin Stelly to talk about first. So, yeah. Oh, I totally skipped up the order in our script, by the way. Sorry, guys, in case you couldn't tell already. Yeah, thanks for not calling me out. I'll call myself out instead. Implications versus Justin's Deli. So Justin's Deli lost last week. Implications are 1-0. But I still, to this day, I think that Justin's Deli is still got to be one of the strongest teams in the toilet bowl bracket, just with how good their team is almost. And this does not work the way that it was supposed to because it's a fucking desktop app.
Yeah, we all know the desktop app sucks.
Why can't I click on his
have
team and go look at his
ton
team
of
the
good
way I can look at
pieces.
my team? Like, it's not like this isn't.
I know, dude. You have to
Yeah,
scroll
down
below
to
the matchups and click it in standings like you do on the app. It's so stupid.
Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on a second. Let me do this.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I mean, it's foolish, man. It really is. They're lacking.
Yeah.
At least we have good improvisation on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're totally.
This is real life, man. You want that fucking Sports Center shit? Go
Yeah,
turn
you
on
want-
your television.
Yeah, this is authentic.
Yeah,
But-
I mean he's got some pieces. He can put up some points too. He almost
don't rig
beat
games
Zoinks
around
in
here.
last week.
Yeah, and obviously, if we saw Rex Burkhead playing last week and Cam Akers playing last week, we didn't. Ken Walker is down here in the
If he
flex spot as
plays,
well.
yeah.
If he's ready to go, he'll do incredible. He's got some good receivers with McLaurin, Pickens, DJ Moore, and Herbert. I mean, Herbert's been having a down year, obviously, I think for the most part. But the fact that he still has someone that, like a no-brainer must start every single week in the quarterback spot, I think makes him pretty formidable. Justin Fields has been looking great, but he's against the Buffalo defense, and it's going to be in Buffalo. No, it's not in Buffalo. It's in Chicago. Well, it's still fucking cold in Chicago.
Yeah.
But a whole bunch, and we saw how many injuries Chicago had last week too with their field or the colder combination. But there's still a lot of talent on this roster, and geared for next year too. The trade for Calvin Ridley early on, Chase Claypool if they figure out how to run an offense, Kadarius Toney's potential. Shakir people had high hopes for, who hasn't really done a whole bunch. Rashad Bateman made that big deal, and Rashad Bateman's on a 5-year contract, so that could be huge when he comes back. And two first-round picks.
Dobbs too.
Yep, 2 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and still has a 23 fourth he's managed to hold on to. What do you guys think about this roster here moving forward? Is this someone that you think could, take on the toilet bowl bracket and run with it? We saw, 1-0 or 0-1 for him so far, but he's also the only team in the toilet bowl to put up 150 points more than once this season. What do you think? We'll start with you, Morgan, since you're down here with me. How do you view Justin Zelli? Is this someone that you think could run away with it, or maybe not so much after this first loss?
We'll see. I'm not paying too much attention. I'm on Lose Like Flint. That is, I am laser focused on that matchup. So I don't really pay attention to the other teams that I'm not going on.
1 week at a time. Yeah.
And I've been looking at this like roster this week, so I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, totally fair. Let's switch over to that one then. It's topical right now. Let's look at Lose Like Flynn in the Division of Death. Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Jerick McKinnon, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Noah Fant, Algier, Zach Moss, and Dak Prescott currently his lineup. People on the bench, he's got Sam Darnold, so that doesn't really count as a real person. Deonta Foreman, who has been miserably disappointing. Really no other running backs on the roster worth noting. Curtis Samuel is a wide receiver worth noting. Some flex at tight end, but the issue for him, Kyle Pitts is on IR. Rondale Moore's on IR. Still holding on to Mechie, as I think I remember hearing news that Mechie finished his last round of chemo or something like that recently. So that's real good news.
Yeah, some good news. Yep, for sure.
Still has Wan'Dale Robinson, so some pieces there. And again, this is another team with a lot of picks in the future too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 second-round picks and his first-round pick too. So a lot to come from this, but not really too many weak spots here either, I would think. Jerick McKinnon, obviously, just out of nowhere, dropped the ridiculous amount of points last week. Hollywood Brown, I still think that's probably one of the most underrated trades at the trade deadline there, was to get Hollywood Brown. I just worry about the Superflex spot, having to choose between Pickett and Sam Darnold there. But currently slated Pickett to start.
He's got Dak as a Superflex. So
yeah, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong for doing this, but I immediately see this and I'm like, yeah, Dak's the QB and Pickett's a Superflex. But I feel like that's a bit of a weak QB too. I mean, I can't really fucking talk, but it's interesting here. So you said you're laser focused on this lineup. What are you seeing? Like, how do you think this matchup goes for you? We'll pull up your team and look at your team as well. But what do you think, Morgan? How does this matchup look for you versus your team? Well, this is a division rival of yours too.
I think Zach Moss is a good pickup for him. I think he's going to get some good points. He probably gets a touchdown. With how much they want to run it, so that's going to be a really good pickup. I'm projected to lose this, by, 23 points. But, that's the tough part about my roster is, is Alexander Madison going to get his one touch on the 1 yard line and somehow get a touchdown? Yeah. Is Christian Watson going to get, 17 touchdowns this week? So that I just, I don't got a lot of guys that are very consistent. So it's going to be whether I can get a couple explosive weeks out of them.
Right.
I think that's the only way I have a chance, because I think his team's gonna put up solid points, for like a toilet bowl team. And it's just gonna be whether my guys
Yep.
can explode or not, because that's what my roster is. It's a couple guys that can explode, and quite a few guys that won't do anything really. So
Yeah. I think he's got a super low floor. Let's take a look at your roster while we're here, too. We've got Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones as the quarterbacks here and the super flex. Pacheco and Madison is your RB1 and 2 right now. We've got Peoples Jones, Christian Watson, Tatua Atwell as your wide receiver, Jawan Johnson at tight end. You've got Bellinger in a flex spot as well as Shaheed. Strong starting lineup, but really, as we talked about before we got going, Tyler Lockett getting hurt and is he already declared out? It looks like.
Yeah,
That's
he
just
already had the
practicing.
surgery.
is it truly up? Because my update says that he's just not practicing.
So
So
Lockett had
he
surgery
had
to
a
fix a broken
surgery,
finger
yep.
and will not
And
play.
And so
Yeah,
he won't be playing this game. Maybe 17, week 17, he'll be back.
yeah. So that's
Okay.
huge blow. And then to your point, as you were talking about before, we're trying to figure out what that next spot looks like for you. Obviously, Javonte Williams is on your IR spot there too, so that's a huge blow at the beginning of the year. But
Yeah, if you had flex options, I mean, I like Jasicki. He's pretty good. It's been a down year for him, so it's kind of tough, like stats wise. But if they just remembered he was there, he could definitely perform for them.
he's a
Yeah,
free agent this year too.
I just don't think they will. With how off Green Bay's. When it's third and 1, you can guarantee Packers corners are 15, 30 yards off the line of scrimmage playing, make sure they don't get a touchdown ball.
Yeah.
So they aren't going to go to, I don't think they'll go to the tight end. I think they'll just sit there and dink and dunk, which isn't really
Yeah.
what they do. They want those explosive plays, but I mean, hell, they'll take 5 yards, get a first down,
Mhm.
So I just don't trust Gesicki. I like Bellinger, because I
Yeah.
think he's, as long as he doesn't get fucking hurt, that's been his issue. Is he gonna, he'll get, 3-4 targets and catch them. He's been pretty reliable at catching them. So he'll catch them and he won't get a ton of yards, but he might get a touchdown. So, I feel like I have to go him in the flex spot, because I don't know who else you put in the flex spot over him.
So send advice Morgan's way. But the worst part is you got still plenty more time to sit here and stew on it. Code and Cade from the outside looking in here with unbiased eyes on the Tigers versus Delhi. Who do you guys think wins this one? Code, we'll start with you.
Tigers and Delhi. I mean, if I'm just looking at all the teams in the toilet bowl, I think it's going to be between win like Flynn or lose like Flynn. I guess it depends on the week for him, and the Delhi, just because they have the better rosters, and they have a little bit of depth too.
I meant, sorry, I totally screwed that one up. The matchup between Webster Tigers and there's like Flynn. I meant to ask you the match. I said Justin's Delhi and Webster Tigers. That's my fault. But
Well,
the match
regardless,
between
I was gonna say, like, collectively, I mean, yeah, this match definitely matters. But so it was the Tigers versus who?
it's
the
Tigers
Delhi?
versus lose like Flynn.
Flynn. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'd still stand by the statement I made before about the Delhi and the lose like Flynn being the two best teams in the toilet bowl right now.
Yeah,
So
you hear that
I think
disrespect, man?
that,
Like, we're both right here, and he's
lose like
disrespecting
Flynn.
us like that.
It's just facts. Looking at their rosters, they just have better
I'll-
guys.
I'll
Honestly, at the
remember that
beginning
for
of the year, at the beginning of the year, when like Flynn's roster, everyone was like, "Man, this guy could be really good," and he just had unluck and injury bug, and
Yeah,
then just like,
tough.
suddenly the division of death, and it's like, okay, now he's back down here at the bottom. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like looking at the pieces, they have at least some star power in certain areas. Like the Flynn's receiver core is pretty good considering,
Yeah.
and then with Jarek McKinnon, anytime you have a Chiefs running back, that helps. And then for the Delhi with Herbert, I mean, you always know he's going to be chucking the ball 40, 50 times, and that's just going to equal points. So it's just kind of the way that offense functions. But yeah, I mean, down here, it's definitely a scrap for whatever you guys can get. So
Yeah.
best of
Yeah,
luck to
I
everybody.
was thinking, like, we all float down here. Like
Yep.
at this point in time, it's really tough to say who's really gonna like no one's looking super dominant to me. Like everyone's suffering a little bit of injuries, trying to replace what they can. And I mean, getting that week 16 vibe where these real life players are tired and hurt, or coaches are stressing, so it's really hard to count on people. I'll give it to Webster's here. I want to see him win here. I want to see some positivity from Webster's, even though we've had a little bit of a spiciness in the sleeper chat. But no, I mean I think as far as that goes, he could definitely squeeze this one out. And then just like an off-topic thing, just for Delhi, I would suggest moving Likely, Isaiah Likely. I'd put in Granson, your other tight end, I believe that is. Um,
Hmm.
and I would let him ride, just especially because I know that they have Moss and they're gonna run it, but I really think Colts are gonna look to the air a little bit. So just little sit start for you. Um, but we'll definitely go back to the bowl and say that Morgan's gonna win this week.
All right. So there was a pick there. And then implications versus Justin Stelly on the other side of the bracket there. We went over Justin Stelly team pretty briefly. The implications, pull it up and toot my own horn for a second or two. DeAndre Swift finally looks like he's maybe a real running back again. We'll see.
Him.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope so, man. J.K.
I wouldn't
Dobbins
trust
seems
that.
like I don't trust it. J.K. Dobbins is looking better and better every single week. Really happy with how he's come back. Mike Evans is the wide receiver one for the team. Drake London and Robinson have been here as well, but Drake London been a little inconsistent. My boy Fryermuth, who I love for whatever reason. At the tight end position, Brian Robinson, bulletproof Brian Robinson, and then Randall Cobb at the flex spot with Baker. God forbid is the super flex at the moment. Might switch in Nick Foles just to let it ride and see how the game's going. I feel like Nick Foles will get me either 4 points or 4D. So I might kind of see how the first set of
7
games go.
touchdowns against the Raiders. Let's go.
Yeah, I might see how the first set of games go, and then we'll go from there. But I feel like they're going to have to throw against the Chargers, and the Colts are trying to actually prove something. So we'll see. But God
Yeah, I mean,
forbid.
Jeff Saturday's playing for a new contract because he's still an interim coach. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got him, Foles and over Mayfield, right? That Denver defense.
I think so. I feel like I should
if,
be.
If the Packers defense sacked him 5 times, I don't know what the hell happened.
Man. Yeah.
That's going to be non-consensual.
I feel like you and Flynn get along. I've never seen. I mean, I rag on the Eagles a lot, but you and Flynn decimate your teams constantly. Like he's always making fun of the Cardinals, and you're ragging on the Packers. But for you, it's because it also probably doesn't help that you're a coach. You actually coach football, so you see things maybe a bit different than like the casual fan. So when the Packers are doing something stupid, you're like, you can be like, this is literally how you beat this coverage or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Let's continue on. We'll go towards the extra pick bracket. So we'll look at Watson's 25th masseuse against Team Havoc again. It was a blowout this last week with Watson's 25th masseuse losing pretty heavily. We've got Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Singletary, Jamar Chase, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Matt Collins, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, Raheem Mostert, and Dalton Schultz currently as the starters. You're starting a tight end in your flex spot. Oh, Tannehill. We
Yeah.
got the word a second ago that Tannehill looks like he's out this
Yeah,
week.
it was breaking news.
I'm
Yeah,
done for
it's
the
tough.
season.
Maybe for the rest of the season, dude. It's looking spicy, but yeah, we're gonna make it happen. I was feeling the double tight end run. I know I have a couple other options, but yeah, it's Return of the King week with Goddard. He's finally off IR, and I'm feeling like he's gonna get some usage. I was really liking P. Ryan. He was throwing down, but they are just back right in mixing to the grave because they signed him on a big contract, so they kind of have to own up to that and use him.
Right. And let's look at the other side, too. Do we see an avenue, again, 40-something points for Watsons to lose by. Do we see an avenue to beat that team? I think you look at what you've got right there with Team Havoc. Josh Allen, number one fantasy in football, probably. Did Hurts take over number one? I can't remember, but he's 1 or 2. McCaffrey's
Yeah,
one,
he's
or
1 or
2.
2.
Jamar Chase is 1 or 2. Tight end 3 through 30 don't really matter so much, but Goddard was up there. Dalton Schultz is supposed to be up there as well. So lots of star power mixed in with some, Matt Collins, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Raheem Mostert. You look at the opposite side for Watson's 25th masseuse. Is Kyler still out is really the question. He's on IR, so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, wait, he tore his
Duvernay-
ACL. What am I talking about? Yeah, he's literally.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
And Duvernay with his foot as well. So yeah, he's just dropping like flies. It really is unfortunate.
So Taylor
He does
Heineke.
have Kittle and Diggs. Yeah, I mean he's got some good guys. Amon Ross, St. Brown.
Zach
I
Wilson
mean, St.
also.
Brown's probably going to get 20, 30 points again this week.
And Zach Wilson also named the starter again, so he's got options there with Tyler Heineke and possibly him. Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard still starting as the running backs here. Van Jefferson, which could be good with Skronek now done for the year, if I'm not mistaken. Hopkins, Marvin Jones, Stephon Diggs, Duvernay, St. Brown. Duvernay's out, so St. Brown still has options there. Debo's still out. Does he come back soon?
I don't want to give him advice, but I would throw Henry in over Duvernay. Obviously, Duvernay's out. Just throw Hunter Henry in. He's been reliable. He's going to get you points. Like I can't count him out because anything can happen in fantasy. But
would you go? Would you go Hunter Henry over Evan Ingram here? I feel like Evan Ingram's been just going nuts.
Oh yes, he has. I low-key forgot he had him. Well, that's tough, dude. In that case, and who are they playing? The Jets.
Yeah.
Hey man, I don't know, maybe throw in Ingram. He did
It'd be a quick turnaround because they played Thursday
last month. Yeah. Oh, that's tough. Well, I'm biased. I won't give you a real answer. I'll just mess with your mind.
Coda, what do you think? Do you think this is a 2-0 and that's the end of it for these guys, or do you think that Watson's 25th masseuse could come back here and maybe pick up a win?
Looking at it now, because the thing is, he lost Kyler to injury and then Wilson wasn't starting, but now Wilson's back, so he actually has two quarterbacks. I think it'll be closer than people think it might be. I mean, last week was just a wash. Cade with the 50-point win over him. I think it'll probably be closer this week, but I think Cade still etches it out.
What do you think here, Morgan, sitting on the outside looking in a game that holds no really good or bad for either of us? Do you think this one goes 2-0 to Team Havoc here and Cade stays undefeated, or do you think there's a chance that Watson's can go ahead and pick up a win here?
I hope it doesn't go 2-0. I want Cade to have something to play for a couple weeks from now.
Yeah.
If he wins this week, then it's over for him. He gets there, right? I don't want that satisfaction. You kidding me?
I think it probably looks like a 2-0, but there's just so many, like we talked about the stars and studs that Cade has on his roster, but like I know that we talk about this every time, and I imagine that even Booty Disciple Michael, who we talked to, is just sick of us talking about this. His receiver core is just incredible. Hopkins, Jones. I'm counting Kittle as a receiver here. Stephon Diggs. I'm on Ross St. Brown. That's just nuts. And these guys can take over a game. And that's with Debo still out. He's got light work, so he might be back. There's just so many options there for him. But it's he's got a lot of options there, whereas the options are a bit more condensed and not taking up as many spots. 43 points for Josh Allen last week, all that good stuff. So we'll continue. Go ahead.
A 10-point swing there, and I'll bring. We talked about it before. It's MVS though for Cade. That he's either going to get you 2 points or he's going to get you, 15, 20 points. Because he's going to get a touchdown and a ton of yards on 2 catches.
Right.
So if he has a couple of his boom bust guys that just don't show up, then all of a sudden we're talking about a ball game.
Next matchup that we've got to talk about, I don't want to say briefly, but I feel like this is going to be a very brief conversation. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Let's talk about Dan Flashes versus Brown out here. Dan Flash is rolling in with Aaron Rodgers, David Montgomery, Benny Snell, Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, A.J. Brown, Darren Waller, Kendall Hinton. Is it Kendall Hinton? Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think about that for a second. Kendall Hinton, Darius Slayton, Russell Wilson. Wilson looks like he'll be back and hopefully fine. There's really not much else on the bench except for Dawson Knox.
KJ Osborne could have another big game. Possible.
Yeah, and not only that, KJ Osborne signed to a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's a 3-year deal for cheap too. And this might be his coming out party. You got to imagine Thielen's going to be done any day now. And obviously, with the acquisition of Hawkinson, already having Jefferson there, part of me would almost think that they would just let Thielen go and start Osborne on the other side and have them be the main 3 threats. But we'll see. A good solid team here, I think, overall. But I think that when you compare that to Brown out, Deshaun Watson, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle, T.J. Hawkinson, Michael Pittman, Travis Etienne, Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, star power everywhere.
I just don't know.
And options on the bench.
Yeah, Jared Goff on the bench, Mixon on the bench, Garrett Wilson still on the bench. I personally don't see a world where Brownout loses this one. I just can't imagine Dan Flash is able to pull off a miracle. I mean, this has got to be. This is. I would give it like 10%, 5% to Dan Flash has a chance. In this
You got to
one.
give it to Dan though for clawing his way into the playoffs, and then fantasy football hit because Taylor went out. But like if Taylor played the full game, he might be in that matchup against Zoinks. So we really don't know. But yeah, I mean on paper, Brownout should handle business here.
What do you guys think? Similar feelings, different feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I think, talking about how Kate, has a lot of, has a couple boom bust guys that can make that interesting. I mean, looking at Eckler's going to get his points, especially against Indy. And, I mean, Minnesota Giants, that game, I guarantee goes down to the wire because that's how they like to do it, and that's going to give the Giants the opportunity to run the ball because they're going to have to play catch up because, they'll never be down by 14 because Minnesota refuses to put teams away, so he's going to get his points. I just think, he's got guys that are going to get their points. They're going to be consistent. So, I mean, Brownout, yeah, probably 90% chance, 95.
Katie, you on that same boat, or you sail on a different way?
Yeah. I mean, definitely on paper, that's what it's looking like. It's tough. I'd say as long as he doesn't troll himself out of it like last week and bench the wrong guys like right before lineup, like that, he's gonna win. I think if he gets in his head, maybe make some inappropriate moves, then it could kind of put him in a tough spot to where he might not pull it off. I mean, especially, Dan's in the playoffs for a reason. He finessed it for a reason. It's not, um, not unheard of that he could finesse a win too. So, I like Havoc. I like the mayhem. If Flashes wins, that's great because he's kind of the underdog going into it. But yeah, definitely. On paper, I think if Brownout just plays his cards right, that's just for sure a win for him. All love, Dan.
All love. Everybody ragging on Dan in the chat today. Poor Dan. We love you, Dan. Let's take a look at our last two games here. Let's start with what side do we want to start with first? Let's start with the fun side. Let's start. Well, I guess they're both fun. Let's do Rutrow Raggy versus Make Fullbacks Great again first. Why not?
Yeah,
grand finals
worst for
bracket. We're
first.
here now.
So let's talk about it. Make Fullbacks Great again. Joe Burrow, Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad Wright, Chris Olave, DJ Chark, CeeDee Lamb, Greg Dulcich, Devonta Smith, Devonta Adams, and Big Cock Brock are the starting lineup there. The tricky part from my perspective with this team is there is not much there past this. This is a great starting lineup. If I told you this was a championship team, this team won the championship, I'd agree with you. I know that they've got Treylon Burks and Corey Davis here on the bench, but there's not much past this. I mean, Tyler Boyd's a good depth piece I get for bye weeks and all, but not anymore. And Corey Davis is
For
yeah,
the Titans tight
Yeah.
end.
yeah.
He's been a guy. He hasn't just been playing snaps. He's been producing. So
Right.
Olave, hurt, too, so,
Yeah. But all these names here, if we stay above, if we stay above with the starting lineup, all these names here are great. I mean, Purdy's obviously making a name for himself. You look at it, this is another really strong wide receiver core with Olave, Lamb, Smith, and Adams.
Yeah.
And then Chark too, I think is worth it to be in that conversation as a great fifth piece there. Cam Hunt bet and gambled on Rashad White being a good player. There was three-way trade talks earlier in the season with him, and the deal, from what I understand, couldn't get done because he valued Rashad White too highly, and it was rightfully so. Stevenson was a gamble. He's a top 12 running back this year. He's number 6 right now.
Yeah.
No, he's
he'll
number 8
probably
right
be
now.
a first-round pick next year in redraft
Yeah, for
leagues.
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and then obviously again we talk about all the time that trade for Burrow was huge. Burrow's been doing incredibly well. Is QB 4 or 5 right now? Number 4 right now. Number 4 overall. Number 4 quarterback. It's just this is a really solid team, I think, across
It's
the
vicious,
board.
ain't it?
Yeah, and again, traded for Devontae Adams, signed Brock Purdy off the waiver, right? Traded for Devontae Adams, traded for Devonta Smith. Can't remember Dulcich, can't remember CD. I can't remember Chark either. Traded for Olave,
think
drafted White,
signed,
traded
yeah.
for Stevenson, traded for Burrow. More than half the roster traded for, so this was handpicked and built.
It
And
was
Cam Hunt's got his
constructed,
guys. Yeah. When we look at his opponent, it's against Rutrow Raggy, Patrick Mahomes,
The
Latavius
undisputed number 1 seed.
undisputed number 1
Just
seed.
had to throw
Patrick
that out there because we hate on him all the time.
Patrick, we're going to come back to that in a minute, actually, by the way. Patrick Mahomes, Latavius Murray, Ezekiel Elliott, Adam Thielen, T. Higgins, Zay Jones, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook, James Conner, Tom Brady. Another one of the underrated moves, I think, was getting Dalvin Cook at the trade deadline. I bring that up all the time, too, but that was just such a good trade, and I'm a believer. I said this in another league today. I am such a believer in, if you have a window, you need to take that window and run with it, and you've got to push all the chips in. And trading for Dalvin Cook there was a great example of that.
Oh, for sure.
When you look at the
He
bench,
definitely made the most of it.
for sure. When you look at the bench, a little bit of depth, right? You've got some Javonte Williams, you've got some Michael Gallup, you've got some Cortland Sutton, some Lazard. So there are definitely some options here. Mecole Hardman, if he finally comes back from IR. So there's some pieces here. These picks. There are some pieces here. But where do you guys think this one stands? I mean, I need to be able to pull these teams up side by side, and I can't. But or can I? I guess I can actually, because we're talking playoffs now.
Yeah, you can. It'll be kind of tight if you just click the matchup between them.
So let's fix this a bit on the stream so we can actually see what we're talking about here. So I'm glad we can.
Yeah.
Now that this is a real matchup, we can do this. That's nice. What do you guys think? I mean, my initial, I'll leave it over half of our faces. That's okay. My initial thoughts are to lean towards make
Choose your
fullbacks
next
great
words
again.
very carefully.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I've had one too many of these. My thought process is to lead towards main. Oh, clearly here, huh? Make fullbacks great again. But I don't know. I want to ask you guys a trivia question. So, out of all 12 teams, no peeking. I want to see everybody's hand. Well, Morgan's no. I want to see everybody's hands. Who scored the most points overall last week? Which team?
Last
week?
First round of the playoffs. Which team scored the most points?
Is it the Diamond Dogs?
No. You're
We're
eliminated.
including the buys.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So what happened?
Raggy.
Yeah.
Raggy.
170 plus.
Oh, yes.
Had a player with 30 points on the bench.
It was
had
kind
a
of
player
question.
kind of had a player with 30 points on the bench. I think it was Zay. I think he had Zay Jones on the bench. Who was it on the bench?
He had like 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it was
Who
wild.
was it? Who did he have on the? There was
He had
somebody on the bench.
Latavius Murray, I think.
Latavius Murray was on the bench, who went for 20 points, and Zay Jones on the bench who went for 30 points. So he scored 170 points and didn't have his 2 highest scoring players in. So, controversial opinion here, and maybe it's the alcohol. The dude needs more respect than he's getting. I think he's fake. I think he's only good for this year. I don't think 12-2 represents his team. Deserves more respect.
Oh,
Nobody's
dude,
giving him any respect, and he's scoring more points than anybody. And he wins when it matters. But he's still winning. If he wins it all this year, it's worth it, right? He's traded all of his picks. He built the team. Obviously, he had the trade from Mahomes early. He's traded all of his 23 picks, all of his 24 picks, except for 2 fourth-round picks, to push the chips all in on this year. He's 12-2, got the bye, scored more points than anybody, so he would have beaten any team he played. And here he is on the easier side of the bracket. You don't want to play Diamond Dogs or Kung Fu Pandas right now. Tell me this dude doesn't go to the championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's given for sure. I mean, he'll get into the championship. I mean, not to cut you off, Code, but I have to get in here and shit talk this man.
It's an argument time. Let's go.
He's definitely fake, and he's gonna be living off the fruits of his past. Like he graduated high school, like varsity football, and now he's 30 years old and he's drunk and fat because he might win this year.
Hey, I'm literally 30 years old, drunk and fat right now. Come on,
dude.
man.
He's gonna sit on his hands. He's gonna sit on his hands for the next 3 years and watch everything fall apart.
With his fantasy team.
Yeah,
not like his life.
Look, real life, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I love you, Robert. Josh.
I want to see. So, Code, I know that you feel similar to that, right? In a few words, in a couple words, you're on the same kind of boat of he overrated, all that good stuff.
I mean, I think that a lot of people in the league are, but like if you look at like this matchup objectively speaking, I'm not going to bet against the Mahomes Kelce stack if he's got Zay Jones catching 3 touchdown passes. Jacksonville's been looking great on offense. He's got James Conner, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott. Like, I mean, if we're looking like on paper, I would take his roster over fullback straight again. But the thing about the fullbacks right again is that they have those boom weeks. So
Yeah.
I mean, and we've definitely seen a lot of games this whole season where Raggy's been kind of dragging against some of the lower tier teams. Almost lost to Delhi back in like week 15. Just kind of not exactly producing those spike weeks, kind of quite like fullbacks. So fullbacks had their run. I think it ends here though.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look, like I said earlier when we were looking, he has 12 wins, and almost half of his games he won, like half of the wins, he had 125 points. That is not champ status. It's just
But he scored
he's
171
coasting.
last week.
He's
To be
coasting,
fair,
dude.
if he wins the championship and he scores 125 points, he
Yeah,
gets all the money.
it's a win.
I mean,
So yeah,
Still a championship,
you can
yeah.
only beat the person you're playing them.
yeah.
Oh, I know.
You know,
So I'm going to ask you, Morgan. So obviously, division rival of yours, you've played him twice this year. Almost beat him a couple times, but
Yeah, that's wild. He did almost beat him.
he's still winning, right?
yeah, my
What
team's
side?
great. Okay.
Yeah. What side of this argument do you fall on? Do you think that he's overrated? Do you think he's not overrated? Do you think are you more on the side of like there's almost like the third side of hey, it doesn't fucking matter if he's winning, he's winning, but like he's gotten a lot of flack from a lot of different people. Where do you stand as a division rival of his?
If he's winning, he's winning. Yeah, his team's old. Latavius Murray isn't gonna be in the league probably next year outside of being a practice squad guy. Like he's got old guys. Adam Thielen. We'll see if he's still got anything in the tank. Right, he's probably on his way out. Zay Jones. He's in his 5th year. Who knows how long he actually is around. I don't know. But it's. If it's winning, it's winning. You can only beat the team you're playing.
Yeah. And that's
if he wins the championship doing it, then he's the champion.
Yeah. Good point.
But this week I don't know. Like I like the fullbacks, lineup. Just looking at it, but it is tough. You're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. That's a good stack. But I don't trust Latavius Murray. I feel like, you might not get anything out of him this week. He might not do anything.
24 points last week, as you can imagine, is best by a long shot. A couple other smaller games here with 10, 6, 17, 7. But absolutely went off. Mike Boone's supposed to be back soon, so you wonder if he starts to vulture some stuff at the goal line. Marlon Mack obviously is there. He's had a hell of a journey this season, but he had a big game as well. I think he scored like 20 points or something ridiculous. Let me see, just to make sure I'm not too crazy.
And who's starting quarterback that week?
Oh, Marlon Mack, also on Zoikskew, by the way. 16.3 points. So if there's an issue with Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack can easily plug in that spot too. So
is it is Russ starting or is it Ripey?
I think Wilson's back.
I think Wilson's supposed to be back this
Oh,
week.
so Denver's going to be down by a shit ton, and they're not going to be able to run the ball. That's going to be the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we'll definitely have to see how this one goes. Currently projected 162 for Robert Raggy to 153.81. Should be a very, very, very close game here. Let's flip on to the opposite side of the bracket. Kungsu Pandas against Diamond Dogs. The number 2 seed against the number 3 seed, the 2 division winners going head to head. And we take a look at the starting lineups we've got for Diamond Dogs. Desmond Ritter starting at quarterback, Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones at running back, Justin Jefferson, Gabe Davis, and Marquise Goodwin at receiver, Gerald Everett at tight end, A.J. Dillon and Leonard Fournette at running back, and currently Gardner Minshew at the quarterback position. An issue for you, Code, all year has really been your super flex spot. You've been kind of playing the backup carousel with Dalton. You had another quarterback, I can't remember who was at one point in time. Now, obviously, Hurts is questionable, and Minshew is supposedly getting the start here. But the rest of your team, obviously, incredibly solid. Gerald Everett for not having a tight end on your team. In the draft, you've got the number 8-1. A.J. Dillon, Leonard Fournette being the flex spots are huge. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is that guy. You dropped and then immediately picked back up. Marquise Goodwin spending all the money to do it. Gabe Davis was a gamble you took on the payout.
Why I dropped him.
Aaron Jones and Derrick
so
Henry have
funny.
been doing well, but just that second and that second quarterback spot has been sketchy. And we're rolling with Desmond Ritter this week. It looks
Has
like
been rough. Yeah. It's been well. I mean, I'm not going to play Andy Dalton just because he got 2 touchdowns because Juwan Johnson and him are in bed together all the time. But like look at that, 11 for 17 for 100 something yards. That's his worst game of the year. So I can't rely on him to throw touchdown passes in Cleveland this week. So, yeah, I mean, I drafted Ritter because I was kind of impressed with his Cincinnati career, and I mean, obviously it's not optimal to throw him out here, but this is what I have to do. It's next man up mentality this late in the season. So
Let's run to the Pandas roster. We got Kirk Cousins at quarterback. In the super flex spot, we got Geno Smith, Lamar on the bench at the moment. So is Davis Mills. Going to running back, we've got Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs. We've also got Alvin Kamara down here, that big trade early on. We've got Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams at wide receiver, Mark Andrews at tight end. Other options here on the bench, just really some depth. So Davis Mills, we mentioned Cordell Patterson, Deion Jackson, Zadavius Knight, Zamir White, Robert Woods, Deontay Johnson is a really good depth piece here, but there's not many options here to kind of jump in and take over. But this lineup is full of stars, and both these teams, it should be a really strong matchup. I think when we look at the Kangsu Pandas, obviously ended the season most points for, I think, right?
yep,
What did you
he
end up
did
taking
it.
that from? Yeah, so they ended most points for, secured the second seed there, and rolled over a lot of teams and got stronger as the season went on. But another position of weakness potentially could be quarterback, depending on how Geno Smith plays, or if Kirk's playing, or if Lamar is fully healed. So it could be a bit of an interesting
Right.
game. Cade, how do you see this matchup going here?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like it's definitely a big a big hit to lose Hurts right now. I mean, indeed, it hurts. But I have a lot of confidence in these guys. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a Titans fan. I think Henry's due to blow up here, get a 30 or 40 week something major, and I mean, just having one guy at this point in time truly go off is going to set things apart. So I know in the standings looks pretty in favor of Pandas, but I'd give it a 50-50 personally, just from what I'm seeing. I mean, both teams have talent. I'm not really disappointed in either coach from what they've built over the year. And I mean, of course, Codes is my boy. I'm partial to him. Earlier in the season, I did say that I felt like he wasn't getting enough respect, and then I mean, he's obviously top of our division, and he's a threat. I mean, just beat Brown out, even if it's just by a little bit. I mean, that's been the theme: is doesn't matter how much you win by, you won. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I'd say it's a 50-50. Personally, I want Codes to win, but that's just like I said because he's my guy. But on paper, it's any manager's game.
Morgan, Cade saying 50-50 here. The projection's saying 60-40. What would you kind of call this game if you had to think about it? Where do you kind of land on this matchup?
My, I think it's Kung Fu Pandas, and I don't. And the thing I think it hinges on is Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in my mind. I think Gardner Minshew. He's a question mark. I think he'll do fine. I like Gardner, right?
Amen.
But the problem I have is how much of the Packers actually going to use their running backs. They seem to have found a groove where they're like, hey, we have to run the football with a quarterback that's 80 years old and kind of lost a little bit. You know, so they seem to have found their running game, but I don't know if the defense is good enough to keep us able to keep running the football. The Packers, Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are, they got the patent on, hey, we get down by 10, we hit the fucking panic button and try to score
Yeah.
11 points next play,
Right.
and that's just not going to happen in the running game, and they're not going to trust that to happen in the running game. So, I think that's what my eyes immediately went to is, Miami's going to put up points on our defense. So
Yep.
I feel like it's going to be whether the offense can keep up, and I don't know if the running backs are going to be a part of that game plan for them or not. I
Yeah.
hope they are as a Packers fan because I think that's how they're going to win. But you just got to hope
But you're
that
curious.
they're thinking that, but they haven't
Yeah.
been thinking that until recently.
Must win for the pack too, I think, because otherwise they're bounced right for playoff
Oh, come on.
hopes.
It's like a 0.06%.
It's very low.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to win out and need some help, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. It's like 10%.
Codes. Gardner Minshew projected 19 points. Desmond Ritter projected 14
Yeah.
points. If they hit those projections, how confident are you that you still win your game?
Well, I mean, like last week, I can't make a prediction just off principle, but I'm pretty sure that Ritter's gonna have a better game than he did last week. his first career start. He didn't really look that great in the stat sheet or in the game, but from what the Falcons were saying, that he commanded the or the huddle pretty well. He played pretty disciplined football from what I read. And I mean, I believe in him for what it's worth, but I mean, obviously, just because I believe in a guy doesn't mean anything. Worked out for Jalen Hurts, but didn't work out for Davis Mills. But yeah, this is the time for him to prove it. So yeah, if Ridder can hit his projection, and then Minshew, I mean, I feel like Minshew could throw for 2 touchdown passes. I don't think that's a stretch. Obviously, I'd rather have Hurts because he's who got me here. But here we are. So I like my running backs, like my receivers, and yeah, I mean, I think this is a much closer game than the projections are going to indicate. I think honestly, the same could be said for the Raggy and make fullback straight again. But something I noticed specifically about this matchup is that our players both have to feed off each other. For Kirk to have a great game, he's going to have to throw to Jefferson. He has 2 Chargers players. I have Everett. So like, there's a lot of like leverage points in this kind of game. That'll make it really interesting because he needs certain guys to succeed, and they rely on certain guys on my side, and I have the same kind of situation for me and him. For example, I have Goodwin, so I need Geno Smith to throw more touchdown pass.
Right.
Doesn't really help me if Geno throws a touchdown, but it helps me if Goodwin catches it. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting for sure.
Almost like checks and balances to hold each other in line. All right, pop quiz. Which game is closer? So taking a look at the bracket again. Between Raggy and Make Fullbacks Great Again and Diamond Dogs and Kung Fu Pandas, which game, if you guys had to pick one of the two, has a much tighter point spread? We'll start with you, Morgan, since you're... Yeah, we'll let Code think about it since he's directly impacted. But Morgan, we'll start with you. Who do you think which of these 2 games is a little bit closer?
I think Raggy make fullbacks great again is the closer game. I think. I'm sorry, Codes. I don't think it's that close.
Cade, where's your head at?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, I'm pretty sure that Codes is scheduled to lose by a bigger amount.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be close. Like I said, I call it 50-50 truly. I mean, Codes has a lot of players that are just him. Like, I mean, they like, these guys are dogs. And I mean, it makes sense that his name is the Diamond Dogs. Like, I think he's really been kind of surprising people from a little bit earlier in the season, even before I picked up the team, just watching from afar. And I mean, as we've seen, I really don't think that Scoob is going to get a 200-point game. I mean, he can. It's possible. It's likely for him. But I mean, when I look back, like, the odds are like people are not hitting their projections. So I truly think that the Dogs Pandas game will be a little bit closer. I don't have Scoob necessarily penciled in to lose. I think that would be disrespectful. Like, I can at least say, like, all right, you are at the top of the league right now, and like, you're kind of being that guy. But I mean, counting Cam Hoon out is also low key disrespectful, and I'm also a big Burrow fan. That's why I always gave you such a hard time about him. And if you look, I actually just put a little meme in the PM planning for you.
Oh boy.
With Burrow, just to kind of send that point home.
I'll go take a look after this.
Just to rub it in, really, for trading him. That's all.
Code, what do you think? Where's your head at here as we wrap this up?
I think if we're talking about closer point spread, obviously, if Jalen Hurts ends up playing Saturday, which I don't think he is, and I don't really want him to, frankly, even though that really matters for whether I win this one or not. It just has to be Raggy and make full X rate again, because there is a damn good chance that Desmond Ridder gets 6 points and Gardner Minshew gets 10. And then, I mean, I've been living off of the Jalen Hurts upside. He's been QB1 or 2 the past 4 weeks. So obviously losing those like 28 to 30 something points, definitely going to hurt, but I have to get the upside somewhere else. So
if I have to pick, I'm going to go ahead and I'll pick that Diamond Dogs and Kung Fu Pandas stays close. So it's kind of interesting we're split down the middle 2-2. I think Diamond Dogs and Kung Fu Pandas will be closer, purely because I think that Raggy and Fullbacks Great Again are such boom and bust teams that if we see both of those teams, if we see one boom and one bust, it could be a 50-point differential. And what's crazy is you could tell me Raggy wins by 50, and I'd be like, yeah, Okay. And you
You can
tell me
see it,
fullbacks wins by 50, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And fullbacks only really had
Good
one
point.
terribly bust week, but both these teams have shown the potential to just boom like crazy. Um, whereas I think Diamond Dogs and Kung Fu Pandas have both put up a good amount of points. So that's kind of where my head's at. That does it for us this week. I know, Code, you mentioned you had a couple things you wanted to talk about and how you think the weather is going to really impact these games. Was there anything you didn't get to on your list of things that you wanted to kind of go over as we get to our final thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, this could be Code's corner for the final thoughts if we want to talk about the weather and the game lines and stuff like that. I know everyone's in multiple leagues other than unless you're me, only in this one. But everyone's in other leagues and everyone knows that weather's coming across the states. It's pretty bad everywhere, almost freezing temps and all that jazz. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we could really see some sloppy, crappy football this weekend, and it's just kind of it is what it is. So, yeah, I wouldn't really be surprised if like really all of these games, the grand prize bracket. I mean, I feel like if you can get 130 fantasy points, I feel like you're doing pretty good, which is not generally a great benchmark. But I mean, with the way these, like Vegas has all these games just not really hitting very well as far as like game totals. And it's going to be cold. It's going to be you're going to get hurt when you're getting tackled out there. It's just, I don't know. I have just a weird feeling about this week. So I'm not going to be too surprised if guys don't just blow up, which is why I think it might be smart to try to chase those floor players rather than shoot for the stars. But that's just my thought. And then I did have a little thing I want to touch on for the draft. I know everyone's getting into their research, especially if you're into the toilet bowl and extra pick bracket and all that stuff. And honestly, you guys can feel free to chime in here too. But I know Anthony Richardson from Florida, that quarterback, he declared. I know that we're probably going to get Bryce Young and Stroud in as well, and then Will Levis. But after that, I think the quarterback class really just jumps off a cliff, and that's just my own personal opinion. But that's why I think that this toilet bowl bracket has like so many implications. I love using that because it just fits. Um, but it really does because a lot of these teams they have their picks still. And in the Superflex League, we've already seen how important the quarterback position is. We've got Brock Purdy, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ritter getting starts in the fucking playoffs. You know, it's like it's wild. So, I mean, if you have one of those top four picks, I mean, I'm not advising anybody to grab a quarterback, but I mean, if the drop off is so significant, I feel like from those top four, what's to say that the top four teams in this toilet bowl bracket grab those quarterbacks and then suddenly everyone in the offseason is scrambling to find their QB2. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, I think it's a good call out, especially too when you've got players like Bijan on the board still, who people expect to go 101. And
Right.
for those of you that aren't super familiar with the spreadsheet here, because I find more and more people aren't, you can filter this pretty nicely. So you can come up here to the top and click on position, and you can filter out all of the players. So these are all the quarterbacks that are in the league that are signed on active rosters. You can click years remaining on contract and filter it to one. And these are all the quarterbacks currently on teams that have 1 year left on their contract. This does not have Foles on it. This does not have somebody else, I think, but that might be it. So these are all the quarterbacks that are going to expire in 1 year. And if you look at how many of these quarterbacks are starting quarterbacks in the NFL, the argument, I'm thinking Case Keenum. Why is Case Keenum signed at 33? Did I mess it up? I don't know. I'll look in a minute. How many of these quarterbacks are starting quarterbacks? Maybe Jordan Love. I don't know. Daniel Jones, yes.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, yes. Does Brissett start somewhere else? I think Mills is done. Geno, yes.
It's going to be a wild offseason.
He's
really
done.
Is.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy's done. Brock Purdy, God forbid I say anything bad here. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr. There are not many starting quarterbacks here, so if you don't have your QB2 figured out, it could get awfully sketchy.
Get really
And
dicey.
so we'll see if that happens. But to your point, the toilet bowl is huge. It changes things a lot for everybody. So we'll see what that ends up looking like as we reset the spreadsheet. This way, my OCD is happy. Boom. Cool. Love this fucking thing. I spent about probably like 8 or 9 hours trying to get this where it needed to be. While we're sitting here, talk about having no friends, right? While we're sitting here, for those of you that didn't know as well, at the very bottom of this page, we'll zoom out a little bit more. There's a couple different tabs here at the bottom. That's when you can see the playoffs. So when you open this up, it starts with the breakdown where you can see everybody's picks, players, cap room, all that stuff. There's a 2022 playoffs tab right here, which is really important. There's that contracts tab, and then each individual team breakdown with your team colors on it and all that good stuff. But all the way towards the end here, the Hall of Fame and lifetime stats. These are going to be fun to look back on, but the Hall of Fames here, this will be updated at the end of the season, so in 2 more weeks with some of these specific things here. Also got lifetime stats, which I think will be fun to look back on in a few years. So your team's total wins, losses, win percentage, how many in the division win percentage, playoff wins, playoff appearances, championships won, first round picks made. I think this will be fun to look back on. So if you guys have any other ideas for things to add on to this, please let us know. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us this week. We'll wrap this up. Code, any final thoughts on your end?
Best of luck to the teams playing.
Except Kung Fu Pandas, right?
Well, best of luck to him too. May the best man win.
Cade, where's your head at? Any final thoughts on your side here?
Yeah, I mean, always good to be here with you guys. Love how I can kind of hop in, rag on some people, give people a hard time and stuff. But I mean, I'm happy for everyone who got in playoffs, just like that little Christmas message that I sent. Really proud of everyone. It's been a great season, and it really is anyone's game. So yeah, just like Code said, may the best man win, and I look forward to being a villain in the sleeper chat. See you guys shortly.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut Morgan off, but I just have to shout out K-Mig, such a worthy adversary in the first round. It was a wild game, and it was absolutely the most stressful weekend of my fantasy football career. So it was a great game, brother.
Touching on buy or sell real quick, and then Morgan, you'll go last. We're gonna go Cade, Code, no explanation, buy or sell. Morgan, you're gonna give me the answer too, and then if you've got any final thoughts. This is controversial, so bear with me. We will never, here's the buy or sell, we will never see another collapse as bad as brownouts in this league for the rest of our lives. Buy or sell?
Bye.
Code?
I'm selling it because I don't think it was that much of a collapse. I feel like we were just talking about Zoinks. Zoinks could win it all this year, and then his whole roster just go to absolute shit. So I don't think it was like as bad of a collapse as people think, because K-Migs is still set perfectly to be the #1 team next year. I feel like nobody could really argue that.
Does still have the picks. I like how Cade followed the rules. The Cade, the antagonist of the league, followed the rules with one word. Code, the good guy of the league, followed it with 87.
With the fucking paragraph.
Morgan, what do you think? I know it's a really strong statement. Would you buy that or sell that?
I'll sell it. Way too early. Way too early.
Fair. I think if I change the words to "we're never going to see something like this ever again," I think it'd be a little bit easier to buy. But I can't get over that first round exit, slipping almost being out of the playoffs in the first round exit. But Morgan, I really appreciate you joining us. It was a lot of fun to get to talk to you. So that's everybody in the league now, and save the best for last, right? Any final thoughts you have? Anything you want to say other than probably complain about the Packers coaching staff?
Good luck to the Webster Tigers. Bad luck to lose like what?
Yeah.
This week.
Next week's fine.
Remember your karma, man.
Yeah, and then you end you'll end the toilet bowl bracket against a division rival too. Do you? And the last thing before we finish this up, do you view Justin's Deli as because you guys are both in the toilet bowl bracket? Do you think there's going to be extra spice there for that game, being a division rival, knowing that this guy, you're gonna have to play him twice next year? You played him twice this year. Like, does that add extra fuel to the fire when you go up into that Week 17 game against him, or are you just laser focused on lose like Flynn this week?
I'm laser focused, and really, there's no rival that I have other than Dayton. That he'd be the only rival that you could say I have. And it's hard to say that when we're a projected 40 points apart.
Right.
This week, but still, no,
You'd probably like Bijan to not be in your division though next year. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see how it goes. All right, that is going to do it for us this week. Appreciate you guys joining us. Sorry for the lack of cleanliness on is that the right word? Lack of cleanliness, prettiness on the scenes, all that good stuff. to slightly spoil some stuff that we're planning next week, we're going to do the final show. It's just going to be Code Kate and I talking about the matchup, spending a long time on the matchup. I plan on doing 2 separate interviews with the 2 finalists, about 15 minutes a pop, just kind of talking about the season and how it's gone and where they're at and how they got here and all that good stuff, and putting those out in addition to our thing. We'll probably also do, not probably, we will also do an awards show, trying to figure out if we combine that with next week or if we do that own separate thing at the end of the season. We'll probably also do a way too soon 2.0 mock draft now that we actually will know the pick order for everything. And then we'll also talk about the rule changes. Will be a solo episode of mine. But that'll be pretty much everything that we do before we go on our hiatus for the summer and the no football. But we'll have it all wrapped up by the Super Bowl for you guys. But that's it for us this week. I appreciate you guys coming out. Good luck to everybody in their games this week, whether you're on the toilet bowl, whether you're in the extra pick bracket, whether you're in the finals, whether you're competing for just a better draft pick next year. This is the last week that all 12 of us will be trying our hardest. Next week, we might have a few teams who aren't trying as hard anymore. So looking forward to that last week of competition between everybody. It's been real fun so far. And yeah, really looking forward to it. We'll talk to you guys soon.